All right, guys, you ready to move on to some Browns and go more doom and gloom?
Let's do it.
Or some optimistic
No, I'm optimistic
season?
about this next topic.
Yeah,
Before we get to that,
it's a happy topic, Ant.
This is a happy topic, but before we get to our happy topic, say goodbye to sticky notes, guys. Scribbles plans on the refrigerator and overlapping calendar invites. The Skylight calendar is here to bring clarity to the chaos and help families stay organized without the stress. This sleek digital display syncs with your existing calendars, Google, Apple, Outlook, and more. Make it simple to track appointments, practice dinners, and reminders all in one easy-to-see place. You can even assign everybody in the household their own color so you can finally see who does what and end all the confusion in your house. Right now, Skylight is offering our listeners $30 for their 15-inch calendar displays if you go to skylightcal.com/NFL. If you go to skylightcal.com/NFL, you get $30 off your first 15-inch calendar. That's skylightcal.com/NFL.
All right, we've got a tight end that is in the pipeline for the Cleveland Browns that could make it really interesting this year in his rookie season. And I know everybody's got, whoa, we've got David Njoku. Well, what do you have in David Njoku? We'll get to that in the base of this topic. But Harold Fannin is a guy who, despite the fact that he played at Bowling Green, and that's not a power school, he rewrote the tight end record book.
Yep.
And two of his most impressive games came against Penn State and Texas A&M in back-to-back weeks on the road. And he had Bowling Green in position to beat Penn State in the fourth quarter. Penn State mounted a comeback. This is a team that made it, to the Final Four in college football? And their defense, which was a very good defense, had no answer for Harold Fannin Jr. Is it acceptable to have legitimate, hopeful vibes around Fannin this year, or is that just short-sighted because of where he played and because of who's in front of him?
I think I'm super excited for him to have pay dividends this year. You take a look at what Stefanski wants to do, and he's always been a guy that has 2-3 tight ends, right? And I look back to the days of Gronk and Aaron Hernandez and the way they kind of positioned themselves. Now, don't get it twisted.
No, someone's going to say G. Bush just put Harold Fannin and David Njoku in the same sentence.
Boy, I'm just trying to make a comparison of the scheme. They're not the same players, but when you have two guys like that and it all depends on how well you're willing to block. David Njoku has made himself a better blocker, but the two tight end set is brilliant because it gives you an opportunity to run and pass out of those sets, and it gives you some unpredictability when it comes to your play calls and the play sheet, because you can't just sit there and say, oh, well, they're going to run the ball. No, they're going to have guys that can run, that can block. You can run, and you got two tight ends. You got the numbers in the box in terms of, hey, do you want base packages in there? And you're going to use 3 or 4 linebackers and big safeties, knowing good and well that Harold Fannin and David Njoku can be dynamic pass catchers. I just like the fact that he's younger. I think David Njoku, if you ask him, if you got him on, I think David Njoku will tell you he had a down year last year. Mm-hmm. I thought David Njoku looked a little slower. I thought he put on a little weight. I thought he didn't catch the ball as well. If you go back and look at the tape that he had with Joe Flacco at the end of the 2 years ago, it looked night and day from what he was doing in this offense under Ken Dorsey. So for me, I think Harold Fannin Jr. is going to greatly push David Njoku, because I think that Harold Fannin Jr. is a more natural route runner coming out of college than Njoku. 100%. He was a much better catcher with his hands, and I just think Kevin Stefanski is going to have fun using him in different matchups.
Gee, you took some of the stuff I wanted to say, so I'm going to go big picture and bring it back. First off, competition is good for everybody. I think Harold Fannin being in the tight end room is going to bring out the best in David Njoku. And the Browns drafted one receiver of any kind in this draft, and it was Harold Fannin Jr. And we all looked at that wide receiver room and said, this is by no means a done deal, a set unit that you'd feel confident in. And the Browns said, we're okay passing on receivers. We'll sign some veteran free agents, but we like Harold Fannin enough that is our receiving weapon. Harold Fannin rewrote the record book at Bowling Green this season. Most receptions, 115 for a tight end ever. 1,555 yards, most receiving yards for a tight end in college football history. He averaged 9 receptions a game and 117 yards per game, both FBS tight end records. Against Penn State and Texas A&M, the games Jay alluded to, about 9.5 catches, 140 yards, and 2 touchdowns. That's 140 yards per game, by the way. 9 catches per game and a touchdown per game. He had 1 in each of those games. He was incredible against the better competition. And, G, the point you made that I think is the biggest reason why I think it's legitimately acceptable and should happen in terms of having expectations for Harold Fannin this season is Stefanski wants to get back to the offense he's most comfortable running, right? The 2 tight end sets. And when they go out in the huddle, if you have 2 tight ends in Fannin, Njoku, and 2 receivers, we'll just say Tillman and Judy for the sake of this. Maybe it's Deontay Johnson. Defensive coordinator has to make a decision. We send it in the dime package. We send it in the nickel. You don't know if that's going to be a running play. That puts the defense on its heels and lets the offense, Kevin Stefanski, whoever's at quarterback, dictate what's going to happen. And if the Browns felt comfortable and feel comfortable that Harold Fannin, Njoku, and any 2 of their receivers is just as effective in the passing game as just Njoku and 3 receivers, so if they feel Johnson Fannin, Tillman Fannin, whatever you want to say, is basically a wash in terms of being a weapon in the passing game, why wouldn't they run that 2 tight end, 2 receiver personnel significantly more frequently than 3-by-1? I think it's a perfect fit. He brings a completely different play style than David Njoku. And once again, this is a kid that is still learning how to play the position. He was a linebacker in college, in high school, if I'm correct, G. At Canton McKinley.
He was also he played
safety on the defensive side of the football, made the transition to offense. Give him a little more seasoning, and this dude has a chance to be special in the NFL. Jay, I can't wait to see what he does with the Browns.
He's an athlete. I don't care who's you can tell by the way a guy moves.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a big time player. And sometimes big time players come from the Mid-American Conference. Ben Roethlisberger was doubted by some. He had a pretty nice transition and won some Super Bowls.
Jason Taylor?
Yes. What I most like about it is, so this could go one of 2 ways. And the more I think about it, this is what I think they are going to do because I think it's the right thing. I think Joe Flacco should be the starting quarterback of this team. I do. And I do think that at some point you're going to have Shedeur Sanders probably get to start, and you're probably going to get Daniel starting as well. What I want to see is Joe Flacco and Kevin Stefanski teaming up with 2 legitimate tight end threats. Njoku has had his best games as a Cleveland Brown with Joe Flacco. Sadly, it was just too short of a time frame. They played 5 regular games together. I want to see what Joe can do with those 2 guys in the offense. Somebody's got to catch passes.
Yeah.
Who on this offense is built to catch passes?
Right.
I mean, you got Judy, but outside of that, you got a whole lot of question marks.
Yep.
I don't think this kid is a question mark. I know he is at the NFL level because he hasn't done it yet. But he did it last year at an elite level against Penn State and A&M. And in those games, he looked every bit as good as a Big Ten tight end. I would have loved to have seen him in Ohio State's offense. I really would have. Yeah. I would have loved to have seen what he could have done, what he could have been. I think to get the true best out of Harold Fannin, you have to have a quarterback that knows this offense and that also knows how to get the ball to receivers. And I'm not saying that the rookies don't, but in my view, Joe Flacco gives him the best runway for immediate success in the NFL.
Yeah, it's kind of, and what I like what Bowling Green did, first of all, shout out to them. A lot of MAC teams don't do this. I like what you did. You realized that you had a stud and you spammed him like, oh, you can't be, when you find out they can't do nothing with you against Texas A&M or Penn State on the road, oh, well, no one in the MAC is going to be able to do anything. We're going to throw you the ball every opportunity. And I love the fact that you saw him on some jet sweeps. We used to laugh and say, listen, if Stefanski ever gets a tight end that he can give a sweep to, he's going to just put that in his playbook. Because that is his move. They put him I think you're going to see him at fullback a little bit. I think you'll see him blocking as a fullback and creeping out. Spider 2 wide banana, what is it?
Yeah.
Shout out to
favorite play call.
Said that Gruden's favorite. Listen, if you get that fullback out there, he's open every time. And just the fact that when you come out in that, and I think one of the things, even if you see some of the rookies, right? if you are playing some of the rookies, one of the things that people talk about is Shedeur Sanders taking a lot of sacks, right? When you have a 2 tight end set and you're playing a lot of that stuff and you're using play action, that is a young quarterback's best friend.
It is.
Because it slows the pass rush completely down.
Yeah.
You can't be running upfield. We might be running inside zone.
But the fear is you better have wide receivers that can get separation.
Yes, and the thing is, we don't have that.
And can Dylan Gabriel or Shedeur Sanders, in your view, can either of those guys get him the ball on a regular basis as they're trying to learn the curve of the NFL? That's what worries me.
It's an unanswerable question.
It's tough because they're doing 2 things, right? Flacco, I like how with a veteran comes in and he sees something and they kind of click.
Yeah.
And you know they ain't practiced that much, but it's just something in that player that, ooh, okay, I like that. I trust him. I was going back and I watched Flacco, and I'm like, what made him special during that little run is that he would trust David Njoku with receivers.
And Cooper.
And Cooper.
And those two was
there would be guys all over him, and he would trust them and say, I trust you're going to go make that play. It's sometimes tough for a rookie to let it go.
Yeah.
When you got dudes all over you, right? So look, I like Fannin with a veteran better.
We don't know if Shedeur or Dylan Gabriel's comfortable going under center, turning their back to the defense, running play action. We just haven't seen it. They certainly may be able to. We just haven't seen it yet. We know Joe Flacco likes to do that. He did it here in 2023.
And we know that Kevin Stefanski
likes that, and it's a lot easier to sell that when you have 2 tight ends on the field, which you could see a lot of them in Njoku and Fannin. But when you look at the overall passing game for the Cleveland Browns, and we talked about this real quick on an Ultimate Brown stream or one of the streams we did. Remember the scene in Anchorman? Jay, you've seen the movie Anchorman, right?
Many times.
Where they all show up to the station-wide fight and they all have different weapons.
Right.
Yeah.
Like
someone brought a trident.
Yeah. When the Browns show up to a
Chucks.
Where did he get a grenade?
It's a great movie. But like when they show up to those fights, right? And the Browns in this scenario or whatever station, they show up to these fights in the passing game and the weapons they have.
No one's scared.
Justin Jefferson's like the trident, and Jamar Chase is the grenade, and there's a bazooka out there that's Tyreek Hill in his peak, or whoever you want to say. Jerry Jeudy's like a switchblade, like dangerous, but I'm not sure he's a single-handed weapon of mass destruction.
Yeah, but he got to cut you 5-6 times before you bleed out.
Yeah,
like he's not no deep threat.
Yeah,
like
the bazooka,
that.
one and done.
Yeah, Cedric Tillman's like a finely sharpened pencil. like
or a dull pencil.
Well, we don't know, but I'm giving him Deontay Johnson is what's Deontay Johnson like? They don't have a lot of weapons. Harold Fannin could be a weapon.
He could.
Like Harold Fannin at the end of the season might be their second weapon they're bringing to a passing game.
And maybe
fight,
he's like a Swiss Army knife.
And that's Steve, play the highlights real quick. The other thing with Fannin, he has yak ability.
I know he does.
Like legitimate yak yards. I don't have the numbers, but just watching some of these highlights, going back, watching the A&M game, the Penn State game, he's not a tight end that just gets open and then gets taken down. It's a jet sweep for a dude that weighs 240 pounds. I understand it's against Akron, and that's not the greatest competition in the world. But still, he's their best yak tight end today. Like, that's not in David Njoku, as you mentioned. He's a create space, out physical you, box you out, make contested catches, but
and then gets tackled
he ain't chugging down the field in the way Harold Fannin is here. I mean, maybe it's just me being optimistic and overhyped at 11:45 on May 19th here, guys.
Oh, no.
I cannot wait to see what Harold Fannin does in this passing game.
I love.
Look at this. This is Penn State, by the way. This is against Penn State, by the way.
In 2024, he had 873 yak yards.
Yeah.
So that's more than half of his yards.
Half his yards, yeah. Special talent.
I love the. I love. To me, man. I don't know about y'all, man. I feel excited to see new blood. I'm getting a chance to see a young tight end that actually did something at the next level.
Yep.
Samson and Junkins, I'm like, man. Like,
we're doing that tomorrow.
I'm like, man, I'm excited to see what these guys have. I'm not gonna lie, man. I really like. As more I look at it, and the more I look about what they did, I think this class actually has the chance to actually be a home run for Andrew Berry. Because of just the names.
I mean, it's the kind of class that you hope, and obviously there's a lot of ifs. We don't know how all these guys are going to pan out. But you go back to the start of any dynasty, and I'm not saying this is going to lead to a dynasty, but there's like the 2-3 classes in a row where you get 3-4 starters in a row.
Right.
And your best players all
Yeah, I'm looking for one in a
The
row.
Seahawks that one year in 2013 when they got Russell Wilson and Bobby Wagner,
Yeah.
and who was the guy that took 15th that everyone hated? The Bruce Irvin.
Yeah, Bruce
like
Irvin,
like
yeah.
all those guys come from, and they got Cam Chancellor late into the draft, and they got Sherman in the 4th round. You don't know until 3-4 years down the road how Mason Graham and Carson Schlesinger and all these guys are going to pan out. But it's May 19th. It's 11:47 a.m. now. We're talking ourselves into some of these guys becoming very good football players for the Cleveland Browns.
Their last 5 picks are guys that touch the football.
Yeah.
I was surprised by that because their first 2 guys were defensive guys, and I understand that they're trying to build something special on defense, but their best player plays defense. I just needed, for this class to really excite me, I needed more offensive potential at the front end of the draft instead of the last 5 picks.
Now, if I will say this, if Shedeur Sanders is
That's the money one.
a ball
or Gabriel,
player,
either of them.
they didn't. I
He was projected to be a day 1 guy.
You get him at 5, all the rest of it, I won't remember nothing else. And by the way, can you put that list back up? And this is just my
Future picks or all the draft picks?
all the draft picks that they took. Is it me or is it? I expect all of these dudes to be in the mix for something.
Graham's going to start.
Graham's a starter.
Schlessinger's
is a starter.
Judkins starting.
Judkins is a starter.
Fannon's playing.
Planning.
One of the 2 quarterbacks
One of the 2.
is either QB1 or QB2.
And
Sampson's getting carries. Like,
I mean, I don't see nobody like everybody on. I don't see nobody on the list that be like, "Ooh,
do you know why that
these
is,
guys
dude?
are in? He might get in trouble. He might get cut. He might be on practice squad." These guys, I expect all to either start, contribute, or have plans in 2025.
When you're coming into a 3-14,
I was gonna say,
team,
that
there's a lot more opportunity.
You better
for them
not
to
be
make
drafting
the
guys
lineup.
at 3 and 14 who are going to be third on the depth chart.
Yes.
You better not
Yeah,
be.
you need starters.
Ain't
you
no-
need difference makers.
Yes.
No Siaki Ika's up there.
No.